We are back in our close reader, Plants and Animals and Their Habitats. And today I'm on page 6. The title of our text is The Coldest Place on Earth. And remember that our essential question for this unit is, how do living things get what they need to survive? So I want you to keep that in mind as we're looking through this text about penguins. We could even change that word, how do living things, we could change it to, how do penguins get what they need to survive? So I want you to be thinking about that. On the last text, we mentioned that we were looking for the things that are super important, because there's so much information in these informational texts that our brain can't hold on to all of it. So we need to use our brains to pick out the most important things to remember. Because this is an informational text, it's not a story, there are a lot of text features. So just looking here at these 2 pages, we see pictures, right? Photographs. Under the photographs are captions. A caption tells you what the picture's about. There's also a map here. A map is another text feature, and we have another caption there as well. Okay, and so all of those things are important to our text. The pictures often help clarify what the words are saying. So if you're still learning how to read, you can read these pictures to help you understand what's going on and to help you with your visualizing. All right, so this is called the coldest place on Earth. Brrr, covered by a thick blanket of snow and ice that never melts. Antarctica is the iciest, windiest, and emptiest place on Earth. Its barren landscape has no trees and few plants. Some people visit, but none live there. Only a few tough animals can survive Antarctica's harsh winters. One of them is an amazing bird. Okay, and here are some images. So it tells us that the land is icy and windy and empty, and you can see that here, right? It looks very cold. You can see ice in the water. We see snow here. Doesn't look like an easy place to live, right? Not like where we live. And then the map here helps me to see where it is. So we live in North America right here, about in the middle-ish, and they live way down here in Antarctica, the penguins do. Meet the emperor penguin. These barrel-shaped birds can't fly. They are too heavy and their wings are too short. They can't walk too well either. These penguins spend most of their lives in the freezing cold sea. A thick layer of blubber or fat and shiny feathers act like a heavy, waterproof jacket. So we learned that they live in this icy, windy, empty place. So they have to be kind of a tough animal, right? It has to be able to survive those cold temperatures. And it tells us, it gives us a couple of ways that they do that. So one way that they do that is they live in the cold sea. Okay? So they're not necessarily up here on that rock that we did learn yesterday. They often are on little ice floes. And then it tells us here that a thick layer of blubber or fat and shiny feathers act like a heavy waterproof jacket. So when you look here at the penguin, we can see some of those things, right? This picture helps clarify the text. We can see that he's got these feathers on him. Part of him, his wings are black. I know that in the summertime when I wear darker colors, I'm often warmer than if I wear white. So maybe that color helps him to stay a little bit warm. And then they've also got a thick layer of blubber or fat. So right here, blubber might be a new word for you. But it tells us right after that, using our context clues, that blubber means fat. So they have a thick layer of fat, and then there's shiny feathers that act like a waterproof jacket. Let's look at our caption here. It says, the penguins find fish to eat in the sea. All the penguins waddle across the ice when it's time to lay eggs. Each mother lays one egg and then waddles back to the sea to eat. Who will keep those fragile eggs from breaking or freezing? The fathers wiggle the eggs onto their feet right under their bellies. There, the eggs stay safe and warm. Let's look at the picture here. You can see it just told us that the father, so this must be a boy penguin, wiggles the egg that his baby's in onto his feet under his belly. And that way it can stay safe and warm. It says the father penguin balances the egg on his feet for 2 months. Can you imagine? That's a really long time, isn't it, to stand there with that egg and keep it safe. They must really love their babies. I'm wondering why they put it on top of their feet. And I think there's a couple of reasons. One, it tells us that it's right under their bellies. And we learned on the last page that their bellies have that layer of blubber or fat. So I think that would help keep it warm. But it also gets the egg up off of the ice, right? If he was standing kind of over it and it was sitting on the ice, that part would be really cold. But in here, it's kind of tucked in that blubber up off the ice, so it's going to stay a little bit warm. Let's go back up here really quickly. It says that each mother lays one egg and then she goes to the sea to eat. Okay, so you can visualize that. Mom lays the egg, waddles to the sea, and the dad keeps it warm. Let's keep going and find out what happens next. The wind is freezing cold. All the fathers huddle together to keep each other warm. I can think of a text-to-self connection here. When I've been outside in the cold, 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 I know that it helps to huddle together with whoever you're with because you can help keep each other warm. And it looks like the penguins are doing that exact same thing. They're keeping each other warm by huddling close together. Then one day, tap, tap, crack, the eggs hatch. The mothers come back to feed and care for their chicks. Now it's the father's turn to eat. Soon the penguin families will return to the sea again. Okay, so some important details that I'm going to include here are that the fathers huddle together to keep each other warm, and that the mothers come back to feed and care for the chicks. And then the fathers get to eat. Now on the last page, it tells us that the mom, once she lays the egg, she waddles back to the sea to eat. And that then the father waits there for 2 months. Remember down here we read that? And then when it hatches, it's the father's turn to eat. So I'm putting together that means the father doesn't eat for 2 months while he's waiting for that egg to hatch. That's called an inference. When we take things from the text and we put them together to make a new idea that the author didn't explicitly say. But then the penguin families will return to the sea again. There's a caption down here to help clarify those penguins huddling together, just like we read. It says the fathers take turns standing on the inside of the huddle out of the wind. Isn't that cool to think that they know to do that? Now remember our essential question for this is how do, and we changed living things to penguins, get what they need to survive? So one way they do survive is by keeping the egg warm, right? By sending the mom off to eat and then the dad off to eat while the mom cares for the baby. Another way that they stay alive or get what they need to stay alive is by working together. So it said that they take turns. So sometimes you're in the middle with your egg and other times you're on the outside. So again, I can infer that it's probably warmer on the inside, right? I know that from experience. And so they take turns being on the outside so that they can keep each other warm. So sometimes you'd be on the outside and your job would be to take some of that wind, and sometimes you'd be on the inside, and when you're on the inside you would get to stay warm. Okay, I think we've got some good details. I think if I think back, this talks about penguins and living in Antarctica and the things that they do to stay alive and to keep their babies alive as well. We used our pictures to help clarify the text and to understand what it is that we were reading. So you may go and answer questions in your close reader about the coldest place on earth.